Hello guys, welcome back to the series of tutorials on cybersecurity. I am Deepak and here I am going to continue the discussion from my previous session which is about networking basics for ethical hackers. In this tutorial, we will be exploring port number, MAC address and IP addresses. So let's begin our discussion with port number first. In the previous tutorial, we have seen how two devices communicate with each other and use the port number for sending data from a specific service on one device to another device. So suppose we have one device called A and another device called B. This device has IP address IPA and another device has IP address B. Suppose A want to send data to B and vice versa. But there might be multiple services running on device A and device B, right? So device A can send data to the device B and device B can send data to the device A. But it needs to take care of these services also. So suppose this service has port number 1, it has port number 2, port number 3 and port number 4. Similarly, here we can have multiple services with different port numbers. So basically, port number in computer networking is a way to identify a specific process to which some data has to be forwarded. And port number allows the computer to easily differentiate between different kinds of services. For example, email will go to a different port number than web pages. So if device A is sending data to device B or device B is sending data to device A, then we also need to take care of the port number. That which port number is forwarding data to which port number, right? So these things are essential for this thing. Port numbers are 16 bits unsigned number which ranges from 0 to 65,535, where 0 is the reserved address and this address can't be used. Other port numbers can be used and we are going to talk about them later in this part of tutorial. So a port number that we are seeing here is one of these port numbers and it is always associated with an IP address. So when there is IPA and port 1, so this is basically source address that a device is sending data from this IP address and from this port number to another device which is IPB to another port number which is P8. So these two things make complete address of a service on a specific device. There is another thing also which is called MAC address and that's physical address of a device which we are going to talk about later. So basically a port number is always associated with an IP address of host and the type of transport protocol which is used for communication. And this transport protocol could be TCP, UDP and other protocols. For TCP, only one process may bind to a specific IP address and port combination. So if there is a service like Firefox and it is requesting or sending data from IPA and is working on port number P1, then another service, suppose you can say Skype, it cannot use this port number, right? That's why we are saying that for TCP only one process may bind to a specific IP address and port combination. Common application failures, sometimes called port conflicts, occur when multiple programs attempt to use the same port number on the same IP address with the same protocol. So this cannot be same for two services on a system, right? Now let's discuss about port numbers more. So we have talked about it that port number can range from 0 to 65,535. The lowest numbered 1024 ports which are ranging from 0 to 1023. They identify the most common use services and these ports are called well-known ports. Higher number ports which are port number other than these numbers, are available for general use by applications and are known as ephemeral ports. And these ephemeral ports are again divided into two parts. One of them is known as registered ports and other is known as dynamic or private ports. The range of these ports is also different. Registered ports start from 1024 and end at 49,151. Similarly, dynamic or private ports starts after ending of these ports. It starts at 49,152 and end at 65,535. It is 151 here. So these registered ports can be used with some services and are registered ports which are not much known, and these dynamic or private ports are port number that are available for use by any application to use in communicating with any other application, and they will be using protocols like TCP and UDP. Now let's talk about some of the common protocols and their port numbers. So the common protocols that are in use are like FTP, which has port number 21. We generally say that port number of FTP is 21, but actually there are two port number. One is used for data, which is 20, and another is used for control, which is 21. Other than this, there is another protocol SSH, which is secure shell, has port number 22. Telnet has port number 23. SMTP has port number 25. DNS has port number 53. DHCP, which means dynamic host configuration protocol, and it has two port numbers 67 and 68. The most commonly used protocol is HTTP, and we use it in daily life, is having port number 80, and HTTPS, which is secure HTTP, has port number 443. Okay, so as we are talking about port number in case of HTTP and HTTPS, so basically when we are writing google.com, we are actually writing IP address of google.com, right? And this is resolved by DNS server. So if you write HTTPS here, in that case, if you write 80, it will not work. But if you write 443, this is going to work and you will be able to access google.com. But if you remove HTTPS from here, it means now you can use 80 port number and you will be able to access the Google. Even in this case, when you are using HTTP, you can still use port number 443 and access the google.com. It automatically redirects to HTTPS, and that's why we are able to access this, right? So this is the meaning of IP address and port number in combination. So whenever you want to access some server, you have to use the IP address of that server, and in combination to that, you have to use the port number of that particular service. If you try to use some other port number like 21, which is used for FTP, this will not be able to access the google.com because this service does not exist on this port number. Or maybe if you want to add another port number, we are not able to access using this also. So you have to use either 443 and 80 to access this google.com, right? We will now move to the terminal of Kali Linux and see how can we start, stop and restart a service. Other than this, we will see a way to check the status of a service that could be active or dead at a particular moment. We'll also see the way we can find out the ports that are listening on or which connection is established at a moment. Okay, now we are on the terminal of Kali Linux and here we are going to see how can we start a service first. So you can use this command sudo systemctl and then you have to write start if you want to start the service and service name. So I want to start Apache here and now service is started. If you want to check status of this service, you have to check it using status command and you can see this service is running at this moment, right? Now you have another command net state then hyphen an and you can list down all the services using this command. So I will just enter here and you can see there are a lot of services, right? But my focus is not on all these services. What I will do, I will grab on this command and find out all the connections that are listening. So you can see these are connections which are listening at this moment, but I am particularly interested in TCP and UDP connections. So you can see we have two services listening on port number 80 and 22. So this 80 is basically Apache that I started right now, and another is SSH. So first let's stop these services. How can you stop these services? You have to write sudo systemctl stop and Apache 2, and then you have to again use this command and write sshd. So both these services will be stopped now. Now you can again try this, and you can see port number 80 and 22 are missing from here because we have stopped the services. There are other commands as well that you can use to start and stop services. So you have to use sudo service, then name of service like Apache 2, and then start. And this command start the Apache 2 service. If you want to start SSHD service, you have to use SSHD and start. Now if you want to find out all the services that are listening at this moment, you have to use netstate -an, then grep and listen. And you can see now again these services are listed here, right? But what if I am interested only in TCP connections? So what I have to do, I have to write grep and TCP. Now you can see we are getting only these three connections. And if I want to find out either TCP connections or UDP connection, then I have to use OR here and then UDP. And now you can see we have these 6 or 5 services available. But you can see on the right side that we have a established connection here, and we don't want that. So what should we do? I will use AND here, and if you want to only find out those connections which are listening, then use AND listen. And here you can see only those connections that are TCP connections or UDP connections and are listening are listed here, right? So we are basically combining netstate command and grep command to find out all the services which are of our interest. So similarly you can use above commands sudo systemctl stop Apache 2, and after stopping Apache 2, now we are not going to find out 80 port number here, but we can restart the service. Sometimes we need to restart the service, so we have to use this command, and now again if you check it, you will find out this thing. And same thing you can do with other command, which is sudo service sshd, and then if you want to stop it, just stop it like this, and then see this service not listed here. We can again restart this service, and if you grab it again, you will find out the service here, right? So basically we are combining all these things. If you want to know the details of netstate command, you can go to the man netstate and read about it. So there are multiple options available. Similarly, if you want to know about the grep command, you can either man on this command, read it here, or go to my previous lecture where we talked about grep command in detail. So now you are well aware about these commands which are used to start a service, restart a service, find out the ports on which these services are working, and if you want to check the status using these commands, you can still do so, right? So you can see this is running at the moment. Similarly, if you want to use sudo service Apache 2 or maybe SSHD and then status, this is also running. Now finally I will stop both the services because I don't want them to be running forever. So I will stop these services, and finally if I grep, I will not find these services here, right? So I hope now you are well aware of the port numbers and the reason behind their uses. Now let's move ahead in our discussion and talk about MAC address of a system. A MAC address of a system is also known as Media Access Control Address. It's a unique identifier assigned to a network interface controller or known as NIC card, which works on data link layer. So like port address works on transport layer and IP address works on network layer, a MAC address works on data link layer. Other names for MAC addresses are burned in address, Ethernet hardware address, simply hardware address, or physical address. And why these names are given to MAC address? Because it is permanently embedded in the device during its manufacturing. Each address can be stored in hardware such as card's read-only memory or by a firmware mechanism. There are many network interfaces which also support changing their MAC address. If you go to the terminal of a system and write command ifconfig, you are going to see IP address of a system, which could be IPv4 address or IPv6, and also you will find out your MAC address there. So let's go to the terminal and see all these addresses. So let's run ifconfig here, and you can see this is our IPv4 address, which is 192.168.29 and 17, and INET6 address is this one. And if you look at this whole thing, you will find out that here is the Ethernet address or physical address, right? So its beginning is 0800 and 27. I will tell you the significance of these 6 digits in a moment. So you have seen that we have MAC address in this format: digit 1, digit 2, colon, digit 3, digit 4, similarly digit 5, digit 6, and so on up to digit 12. These 6 digits are very important because these digits tell us about the manufacturer. It's a 48-bit number. So basically these are 24 bits of MAC address. And when we are saying that it is 48-bit, it means there are 2 to the power 48 address possible, which is roughly 281 trillion. And it's a very huge number, so we don't need to worry about it as we were worried about IP addresses, which is only 32-bit number. So there are around 2 to the power 32 addresses available, right? So these digits are basically written in hexadecimal. Now I will show you the details about these 6 hexadecimal digits and tell you how can you find out the manufacturer of your hardware. So first try to find out your MAC address, which could be anything like this. So it's beginning with 08, 00 and 27. Just copy this. Go to this website dnschecker.org, which is telling us how can you look up for the MAC address. Now copy this MAC address here, search it, and now you are going to find out vendor and company. So this is PCS System Technic GmbH. So I am using virtual machine here, so I am not aware what this PCS System Technique is, but I will show you the MAC address of my system, which is my actual system, and then that should have Gigabyte as a hardware manufacturer. So here is my system. I will write ipconfig and all. I can also do this in my Linux system and I will get the same physical address. If you look at this, here I have a physical address which is beginning with 18, C0 and 4D. So I will write 18, C0 and 4D. And you can see as these 6 digits are the information for manufacturer, so it is telling us that my hardware is manufactured by Gigabyte Technology Co Limited, right? So similarly you can find out the manufacturer of your hardware using this MAC address. Clear? Now let's move ahead and talk some more interesting things. In our previous videos, we talked about hiding your public IP address from the websites you visit. And now we are going to talk about a similar thing where you will be hiding your MAC address, and that thing is called MAC address spoofing. Actually, MAC address is hard coded on a network interface controller, which is also known as NIC, and it cannot be changed. However, many drivers allow the MAC address to be changed. Additionally, there are tools which can make an operating system believe that NIC has the MAC address of a user's choosing. So it means you have some software solutions where you can change your MAC address, right? And the process of masking a MAC address is known as MAC spoofing. Clear? And for changing all these things, we have a tool called MAC changer, which is inbuilt on Kali Linux. I'm not saying that you can't use this tool on some other Linux distribution, but in Kali it is inbuilt, and in other distribution you might need to install this software. Clear? So let's go to the Linux terminal and try changing our MAC address. Okay, now we are on the terminal of Kali Linux, and here we will start changing our MAC address to some other MAC address. But let's begin with seeing all the links or all the network interfaces on our system. So this command is IP link so, and we have two interfaces L0 and ETH0, and we are going to change the MAC address of ETH0. For that you can use inbuilt MAC changer, which is this. So it's giving us multiple options. If you want to generate a random MAC address, you have to use this -r option. If you want to list all the known vendors, you have to use -l. Similarly, if you want to set the MAC to some other MAC address, you have to use the -m command, right? You can also do man MAC changer, and you will get all these details here, right? So every time you have this man command for your help. So let's do one thing. Try to change our MAC address to some random MAC address, and we'll start that by investigating our current MAC address of some interface, which is ETH0 in our case. But for that you have to use -s first, and this is going to show you the current MAC address, and you can see our current MAC address is this, and permanent MAC address is this. And if you look at these both the MAC addresses, these both the addresses are same, right? So we are not going to hide our identity at this moment because these addresses are same. So what my current MAC address is, that is my permanent MAC address also. So whoever gets to know about this MAC address, he will know my real identity. Now if you want to change the MAC address, what you have to do, you have to use if config command to first down the network interface. So how can you do that? If config ETH0, because this is the interface we are going to change MAC address for, and it is showing if config command not found. So what I have to do, I have to use sudo here, and now this network interface is down, right? Now we need to change the MAC address to a random number. So I will use MAC changer, use -r command that I have shown you just before this, and then ETH0. It means a random MAC address is going to be generated and assigned to my system. So it is saying could not change MAC interface up or insufficient permission. So this error is showing that I don't have sufficient permissions, or either my interface is up. So I will use sudo command here as well. And now there is a new MAC generated, and this is new one. Now you can see this and this is different one. Now if you want to find out your new MAC address, you can again use this command MAC changer -s and ETH0, and current MAC address is this, and permanent MAC address is this. So you have successfully performed map spoofing here, right? So whoever is going to see your system now, whenever you are sending some data, he will see this MAC address, right? Although it's not that easy, but still you might have some problems with it. But this is the way to change the MAC address of a system, right? If you want to up your network interface, then you have to use the command sudo MAC changer, then ETH0 and up. And after this, your system will be up, and you can see your current MAC address is this, right? which is quite different from your permanent MAC address. You can also list down the vendors which are available, and these MAC strings are assigned to them. So you can use MAC changer -l, and I will use grep command to find out these specific vendors. So let's pick this and copy it here. So it is showing me that it's Cadmus computer system. I'm not much aware about this, but still this is the MAC address and vendor of this. If I talk about my real machine, which is not virtual machine, then I will be using MAC address of that here, which is 18C0 and 4D. These are six starting digits of that. I think it's not available in this list. What I can do, I can try to find out name with gigabyte, or just keep it giga, so that I am not aware that whether it will have some hyphen in between or not. So you can see there are a lot of addresses which are there, and there is one thing, gigabyte technology co limited. So I think there is some different MAC address which is registered here, and then there are more, right? So actually you need to go through this and understand which is your MAC address and its vendor. And I have already shown you the website also, which shows all these details, right? Now after this, what you can do, you have one more tool in Kali Linux, which is MAC changer, but using this tool you have one more option where you can assign a particular MAC address to your system. So you need to do MAC changer and then use -m, and after that you can assign a particular MAC address here. So what I will do, I will first show you my MAC address, which is this permanent MAC address, and I have already changed this to a random number. So I will again set it to my permanent MAC address and make it same. So I have used -s command. I need to use -m here. It is saying that no such device is available. So there is some issue here. I think I have written the command in a wrong way. What I have to do, I have to write to this ETH0 at the end, and now this is perfect. So current MAC address is this, permanent is this, and new MAC address is this. So we have successfully changed this MAC address back again. Now I can see my MAC address of ETH0, and this is same. See if my network is down. So I will write sudo if config ETH0 up and try to ping to google.com, and it's successfully able to do so. Sometimes you might find some internet connectivity issues with some other MAC addresses, and there are multiple reasons behind that, right? Similarly, as you have done MAC spoofing here, in computer networking, IP address spoofing or IP spoofing is also present there, and it means you can create some bogus or different IP addresses that don't belong to you, and with those false source of IP addresses, you can send some data, right? And in that case, you are actually impersonating another computer system. But all these things that I am telling here are for educational purpose, and I hope you will not be using them in a wrong way. There are some other tools in Mac, and you can see there are some snipping tools. One of them is Wireshark, which we are going to cover in few other lectures. And using this tool, we can actually see the packets which are going from our system or which are going through our router, and know the details about them, right? So this is widely used snipping tool, which we are going to cover in future lectures. So I hope you found this tutorial very interesting. If you have any doubt or query regarding any of these things, or if you want to share whether you have done map spoofing or IP spoofing somewhere in your lifetime, or you are using some tools for that, you can share that in comment section. So see you in the next video with some new concept. Till then, thank you so much.